Welcome, students. On this competency 2, we're going to be covering the fundamentals of composition. In the previous assignment, we were able to get a good understanding of what research is and how important it is to establishing a direction for our design. In this assignment, we're going to be covering good unity and harmony within all of our shapes. You're going to first need to get some amount of research, and again, research varies according to the project that you're working on. In this specific project, all we're going to really be doing is doing a definition research of the words. Then we're going to be working with 4 basic shapes, putting them into a space. There's 3 constants in design: space, content, or the message that you're trying to get across in your design, and then form, the method, the objects, the material that you're going to use. And in this instance, we're going to be working with the square. Normally in graphic design, we refer to as ground, and that object affects that space. Then we need to determine the amount of space that we want to allow, and the objects that you place in there would be figures. So we're looking at the balance between figure and ground is determined by the amount of ground that we leave around the figure that we place into our space. And then that ground sometimes is referred to as negative space, but really negative space is space that can surround an object. It can be inside an object. When you overlap 2 objects and you reverse out the overlapping portion of it, that can be considered negative space also. We also want to use thumbnails. It's a sort of a shorthand for artists. It allows us to put down lots of our ideas and thoughts onto paper so that they can be viewed and evaluated by other students, design team, art director, and so forth. It's an efficient way of putting down these ideas so that they can be reviewed without spending a lot of time on a bunch of ideas that may not even work. That's what you're going to be doing, is creating some thumbnails and then getting some feedback, refining your composition, the placement of your objects, and then going back and fine-tuning the placement of it. In creating this composition, we're going to be working with the universal design tools, which are the principles and elements of design. You have a set of principles, and then you have a set of elements. The difference between both of them is that the principles are more like laws or rules that of designing, and that are used to evaluate, but they're used as guidelines to evaluate whether design is successful. Elements are the basic properties that make up the individual designs that may be perceived through the senses. Elements are the objects that you can manipulate and arrange into a composition. And space is the first item that we want to deal with. So as soon as you place an object, and we're going to be working with 4 squares, as you place these 4 squares into your space, it's going to affect that space, the ground, and then you're going to manipulate those squares to create some shapes, and you'll have to pay particular attention to the line quality. If you stroke in other words, outline the square instead of filling the square. So you're going to have to pay particular attention to the line if you stroke the object, or if you fill it, then it's going to be more of a shape, and then you're going to have to pay attention to the edges of these objects. Then you're going to have to think about scale, reducing and enlarging the objects. But once you've created your thumbnails and you present them, you'll have time to go back and refine, and we'll get feedback. And in that process of evaluating our thumbnails is where we use a set of criteria that we will always have for every project that we work on. This set of criteria is used because art can be very subjective, and we want to make sure that we're real clear on the objectives that we're trying to achieve on every assignment. So once you've created your first set of thumbnails, then we'll come back and you'll get feedback from students and myself on your composition, again according to the set of criteria.